Okay, welcome to the Inbox Attack weekly workout. We're going to dig into the next phase of the hero's journey and unpack a couple of different frameworks and ways of approaching it. So this week, before we get to the set list, just a quick recap on the hero's journey. First and foremost, your prospect, the person you're trying to sell to, is the hero of the story. So whenever you're crafting messaging, they're always going to be the hero. And you, as the salesperson, the owner, or the producer, is the mentor or a friend or an ally, helping them through this journey. The elixir, the sword, the reward that they get on their hero's journey is your product or service. And so, over the past few weeks, we've gone over the call to adventure and how the hero's like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I'm okay with how things are now. Then they meet a mentor, aka you, and they cross that threshold to step into the sales process, go through some back and forth. You give them some more information. They go into their cave scene or the belly of the whale, as Joseph Campbell would call it, and facing their darkest, deepest fear, which could be typically money, actually opening up their wallet and what's connected with that. So now we're going to get into, we're actually going to combine these because it's adapting into business and then breaking them up, I think would be kind of overkill. So at this stage, the hero, your customer, has actually spent the money. They've made the commitment. They've signed the contract. They've placed the order. They've done it. So in this part of the hero's journey, okay, they've faced their fear. They've conquered their fear. And now they've got the reward. They've got the sword. They've got it. So we're going to adapt that into, all right, so I got your money. Now what? I've got your time. I got the contract. Now what? And kind of dig through some of the pitfalls there and run a couple different writing exercises around that. So the reward in the hero's journey, when you look at the reward, it could be a lot of different things. Like in stories, like in a romantic comedy, it could be the girl finally wins over the guy. Or nowadays, the guy wins over the guy. It could be someone getting that job, getting that big promotion, or impressing their teenage kids so they like them again. It could be a lot of different things. So the three major ones that you see the most is that in some cases it's a weapon. I would say my favorite story of all time is The Sword and the Stone. And I think it visually says so much about the whole hero's journey and, how, the visualization of war, the future King Arthur actually grabbing the handle of the sword and after a couple of tries finally is able to pull it out of the stone. And how his journey actually kind of begins there. I could go on for hours about it. But not going to do that. The other reward that you'll see a lot of is a skill. It's a skill, and Karate Kid, he was taught that he was given that crane technique, and that's how he was able to vanquish his enemies. In a business-to-business environment, it's giving someone, access to a tool or a resource that can help them, or a skill. It's like, all right, you've paid the money. Now I'm going to show you how to get that person on the phone. Now I'm going to show you how to dress better. It's kind of an interesting whole business that's cropped up over the past 10 years of people that, especially among men, like dressing before dates, and they have a new skill. to impress the ladies. And business could be a lot of different things. It doesn't need to be business to business either. Sometimes it's a training course. It's like, okay, now you have access to the training courses. Now you've got all this knowledge you could use. So it's important to note that they've got the reward, but they still need to use the reward. They need to use the new weapon. They need to use the new skill. They need to use, this new confidence. So you see this a lot with life coaches and speakers, and sometimes with TED Talks and things like that. Is the reward sometimes is a feeling that, wow, I'm doing the right thing now. I've made the right choice. So it could take a bunch of different shapes, both hard value and soft value. Typically, it's a combination of both. But they've got this sword now, right? They've got this weapon now. They've got this skill now that comes with this good feeling of, oh, wow, I conquered the fear. Now I've done it. Well, I live in the real world where the hero's journey is fun and exciting. And this part of it's really cool. It's this the big scene where the music cues in. It's like, oh my God, it's so happy. It's so amazing. They finally have done it. They've done it. And then it's like the now what? And one of the things that illustrates this best is actually in the Lord of the Rings, because the ring itself held all that power, but it had the bad stuff attached to it as well. So, and in a buying situation, oftentimes people deal with things where they have buyer's remorse, or they buy something and don't use it. And this happens with physical products as well as services. I've lost count. I had a client I talked to this morning who he spent a sizable amount of money with me like 5 months ago. And he finally cashed in on it. He's like, all right, I need to schedule some training. It was a LinkedIn training, but it took a while. So he had it and didn't use it. So he had paid for it. He had gotten the reward. He had like a couple of training sessions done and it just disappeared and didn't use it. And I was like, oh geez, I need to how do I even use this thing again? You see it with products. We have a client now, LoomCube, that has these lighting things that you get attached to drones to help light movie sets or to light things that they're filming. And oftentimes the issue they get is that people buy it and they don't use it. If they use it, they might buy more. They want them to buy these little lighting cubes. So it's important to understand that the usage of it is important. In a business to business, especially something that's more complex, like I know that we've got photographers on this call, and we have performers and artists and creatives on this call as well, consultants on this call. And a lot of this has to do with not so much helping them, okay, it's everything's going to be okay, here's how you use it, but it's teaching them to be a good client, teaching them to be a good customer. And that's one of the ongoing issues that we see in all sorts of transactions is people will sometimes think that you're Walmart and that the return policy, they got to use it and return it. Sometimes you'll see issues with people that aren't able to figure it out on their own and they get all pissed off at you. Other times they get really demanding and expect same hour responses on issues. Other times they think they can boss you around even though you're the expert. I think everyone on that call has probably dealt with that before. So adapting this to business, here's a couple of different things. So I see this, I get these emails a lot when I buy things, whether it's a product or services, hey, thanks for completing the checkout process. Here's my contact info. I'm going to pass you over to the onboarding specialist, John, right? Now, there's so many things wrong with that message, but it is effective. It's not a wrong thing to send. There's just a lot better ways of doing it. A lot better ways of doing it. And keeping in mind that there's going to be these different, and you really can't predict it either. Like after someone spent the money or signed the contract, they've made the big, hard to pull back from commitment. They've crossed into the new world. They've gone through the process with you, and now they're in it with you. They're invested in one way or another with you. Now there's still more journey left. Like this is like on the hero's journey, this is maybe, if it was 10 steps, it would be step 6. There's still a lot more that needs to happen for them to actually get the full value out of it and to continue getting help from you as the mentor in the process. Now, you may realistically have to hand them off to somebody else. So you could still do that, but letting them know what's going to happen is important. Keeping things human and non-transactional. And that, I would say, I wish I would have made a slide for that point. That if you forget everything else from today's workout, remember this, that even though them spending money is a transaction, signing a contract is a transaction. You know, putting in a formal request, adding something to a public events calendar it's still a transaction, right? So despite the fact that it's a transaction, it is always going to be in your best interest to treat it more as an interaction in a relationship. So even though a transaction is happening, it will help to inject that humanity back into it, to stay conversational. And I spend a lot of time rewriting people's order receipts and buy now buttons, because like so much of this process is so human. And then we're like the very end, like they've got their wallet open, but I'm gonna here's a copy of your invoice attached in PDF format. It's like, oh my goodness gracious, like I thought we were friends. So maintaining that same tone, whatever tone you carry throughout, you need to carry through the transaction too, so that it is a transaction, but you do not want it to feel to your new customer or new client that they are just now, they've graduated to be part of a transaction on a psychological level, on a trust building level, on a hero's journey level. It's wrong in every way to treat the humans as a transactional component.